So, me and Kaylee are here with Paige Cox, a third year in fashion graphics, and we're just going to ask her a few questions about her time in uni and in general how she's enjoyed the course. So I'll do a first question. What was Southampton like, in your opinion, when you first moved here?
So I think I was probably like one of the only people that didn't do loads of research about the area like prior to going, because when I actually got there, everyone was talking about like, yeah, I came to Solent for like the nightlife and because there's like other stuff to do in the area, but I didn't know that. So I feel like if you are worried that like Southampton is not going to be busy, I think it is pretty busy. Like there's loads of events in different clubs and stuff. There's so many clubs, like more than where I live, and there's like the town high street kind of thing, which has more shops than I expected, like, in terms of like Urban Outfitters and size, which if I wanted to go to near me I'd have to like travel a bit, but that's like right on your doorstep. So yeah,
it's a pretty decent city. It's quite a small city, but it's a decent
yeah, I feel like it has what it needs to have for students though.
Yeah, definitely.
Why did you decide to study fashion graphics?
So for me, I definitely wanted to do graphics because I've been doing it for a couple of years, but I wanted to do fashion as well. And I think it can be quite hard when you want like a crossover between courses, because sometimes they're a bit more specific than what you want. So with fashion, it could be like garment design or anything to do with textiles or buying and merchandising, which wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. And with graphics, it's either like graphics and illustration. So I think the great thing about like Solent is it is one of the only sort of courses with the title like fashion graphics, and it does have a mix of both ends of the industry. So if that's something you want, it's like the only place that has it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Shall I do next one? Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
Okay. So what did you like in your first, second, and third year?
So there was like an outline of what each year would sort of entail. So the first one was kind of about getting like everyone on the same level with the technical skills. But it's like a good thing to remember that not everyone will be the same, and it's not going to be disheartening if you're not at the same place as someone else. Because I think for me, it was really important to like look at things like in your own time. So I found watching stuff on YouTube all the time, like when you think of ideas that you can start to incorporate. And then in second year, it's really important to like experiment as much as you can in whatever time that you have, whether it's to do with like how to put prints together or making tiles, fixing up on skills like fashion illustration, whatever. Because in third year, it's like refining, and when you should feel like you're coming to that greater confidence of your style. So making the most of second year really aids following on to third year.
Yeah, they're all kind of connected in like a really weird like way.
Yeah, I think when you first start, you're like, you can't see how it's going to pan out in that sense, like how the briefs are going to sort of interlink, but they do, because when it does come to like the very end, obviously you have your own project, and like that's where you pick the bits that you have done before and then incorporate them in however way you want to. So second year is like the most important for like doing everything you can, whether that's trying to do what are they called, you know, when you have a day like a workshop sort of thing, to like ask about getting those, you know, I think just looking at different designer styles, especially Pinterest, I would say, like if you don't use that, definitely start using it.
Love Pinterest. Use it all the time.
Yeah, I love Pinterest.
Yeah.
Move right, we go. How would you say, like, how would you rate your experience when you're creating your FMP?
Creating my FMP?
Mm-hmm.
I think when I was doing the proposal, there's like, I think everyone kind of feels like a lot more excitement, and then once the proposal is done, you kind of start to worry about how you're actually gonna do it. So like, it's really important in the proposal to make sure that you have got like everything in it, and that will help like moving on into the actual project, making sure you have like a proper time plan. And you might sort of fall off the plan a little bit at the beginning, but as long as you've got like a rough idea of things that you need to be doing, creating like lists or whatever. I think during the virus sort of time for us, it was a bit difficult moving everything into digital as opposed to like making things in production. But I don't think it was as big of a negative as it might seem, because I think having things digital meant there was a bit more lenience into what sort of photography you could sort of pinch and like work prints or whatever your project was based on. So for me it would be like putting prints onto images that already exist, because I didn't get the opportunity to like take my own photos. So in that sense you can pick like the greater stuff that you might not have been able to do yourself, whether there was like the virus situation or not. So yeah, I don't think it was too bad really.
Yeah, I suppose it's like it's quite nice to have it both ways really, like
yeah.
So throughout, how do you think that the support was in each year? Like,
I think it changed over the years, but it does also depend on like who your tutors are and I guess how often you're in. But I would say it's really important to remember like you have to have the work done, like you've got to take that responsibility to like make sure you're always working like independently, because I feel like you can't get the most out of support unless you've always got stuff to show or you're like always being proactive with your time. So whether it's a lesson that I don't know, like you might not have too much done for, to make sure that you're like doing it in your own time, so the next time you're in you do, because otherwise you're kind of going to walk away from lessons with like nothing to go forward with, which can be a problem because it will take a toll. Like if you're doing that sort of every lesson, you're going to get stuck and you don't know where to go from there because you're not getting feedback, but that's because you don't bring enough in each time you're in. So yeah.
Cool. Where do you want to go like after uni? Like what did you sort of at the beginning of uni, where did you envision yourself after your third year versus now?
So I think it's probably important to note that I actually didn't think I was going to go to uni. I kind of decided like really early on, I thought, oh, I'm not going to go. And then I was in first year of college and then it was kind of coming to the end. And I thought that I wanted to do like an apprenticeship or something. And I don't know if it's like just a personal experience, but I would say that going to uni for creative industry is much better than going into apprenticeships, because you are never guaranteed that you're going to do anything they list in terms of their briefing. And they almost expect more experience than you probably would have because you've been studying. So unless you've been independent for a couple of years or whatever, and you've done all of this sort of volunteering, you've got your own brand or something like that, there's kind of no point with the apprenticeships because you're just not guaranteed to take stuff from it. It's more of those things where it's like you want to be freelance and you want money like ASAP. But I think going to uni for that was much better in terms of learning. So now having sort of finished, I knew that my sort of favourite area was streetwear, like premium streetwear brands, more so menswear than women's wear. But I think now that I've sort of seen both sides of that, it would be easy to like incorporate together. So I think now that I've sort of finished, I would definitely want to go into some sort of streetwear like brand or that industry. I don't know if it would be better to like sort of work bottom to top in terms of learning sort of more commercial and then luxury, because you do need to know both to sort of move up. So yeah, that's sort of where I want to go from here.
Nice. What do you have access to in the course? Like what have they given you that you've been able to have access to throughout the years?
So obviously when students go back, when they're like allowed in around the buildings and stuff, there's a couple of rooms with Mac computers, which are, I would say, essential when you're working on bigger projects, because I don't think, unless you've got like a Mac Pro or something, your laptop just won't be able to handle having open like every Adobe thing all the time, because mine definitely can't. And there's the library as well, which has a lot of space, like for things like tablets and your laptop, as well as charging and all sorts of things if you want to do more physical work like drawing. And the books there too, because I think sometimes students don't take enough advantage of the library. I feel like you can find a lot of, even if it's like fine art based painters or drawers, you can still take from that and work with it digitally. And I believe there is another room, I can't remember where it is, but there is another room, and it's for Mac computers, but they've got a bigger hard drive. So if you work on things like Premiere Pro and another video editing thing, it has a separate like Wi-Fi, because you'll need like so much space and like faster internet. So there is a place where you can go in there and do bigger projects that are not with the main Wi-Fi in like the library area. I have to find out where that is, but I did get told about it. We just didn't get a chance to go in there, because when we was about to go in, everyone was like going home because of the lockdown. But yeah, you get like your own password and everything like that, so everything's individual as opposed to like having your main sort of library logins. So yeah,
cool.
No, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, neither did I until like before we got to go in, and then we didn't get to go in it.
What is your standard day like at uni?
So I think creatives' timetables usually are kind of on and off. Like you might be in a couple of days one week, and the next maybe not so much. Plus it is a personal thing whether you like attend, if you feel like you need to go in for third year, but I would suggest going in as much as you can. So our timetables were typically more afternoon-ish, and for me, I would struggle to like do any work prior to going in. But I feel like if you are able to get up to do something maybe for that lesson to take in, because you're like kind of ready for it, and then you feel like you are being productive with your time. And then because I had a job, I'd either go to work first and then go to a lesson, or I'd go to the library. And especially in third year, I would go to like those same 3 places almost every day till kind of as late as possible, and then go back home, because I don't think I appreciate like the library space enough until the end. And you can get a lot done, especially if you're on your own. Like I know people want to go with their friends and stuff like that, but if you are in a routine where you have a job and you're able to have time on your own, you can then just go to the library, do what you need to do, even if you don't think it's like a lot. But for me, I would go there to get book references, scan all the pages that I wanted to use, because then I don't need to take it with me. Like I don't have anything to carry. It doesn't cost anything, and it's so quick to do. And then I get my stuff and go home, and then I could work from what I'd got in the library or whatever else I've picked up. So bit of a busy day. Some days could be, you know, quite empty, which is where you want to make the most of what time you do have when you've not got anything going on, especially to prepare for whatever projects are ongoing, or what lessons you have following day or day after.
Yeah, definitely. Do you feel like the course has given you experience and like insight to your future plans? Or do you feel like it's really set you ready to go?
I think definitely yes, because before I did because I've not really done any sort of study on fashion. Like I am like aware of it when it's just sort of personal like hobbies, I guess, looking into it. But the sort of trend forecasting and trend reports, stuff like that whole industry of looking at what's coming into season and the predictions like however many years in advance was really a big insight to me, because I didn't know sort of anything about it before. I think the big difference is because, you know, you can see like magazines and articles and they're like, oh, you know, green is in for spring. That's more of like a present thing. Whereas databases like WGSN sort of open up the doors 2 years ahead, and you can look at whether it's, I know, summer 22 is up at the moment, and we're not even in 2021 yet.
Yeah.
But it gets like prepared, because I think it shows to employers as well that you can think ahead and innovatively, whether that trend could change. Like, that's the thing, it could adapt to something completely different after the initial trend. So 2021, for example, could make changes to 2022.
Yeah.
But it just, I don't know, it gives you like more insight to what the colours are going to be, how they transition from one season to another, because everything is really trans-seasonal at the moment. And how the prints and things that they've picked up on, like where they come from, and it gets you thinking a bit more. So I notice now more that when I look at prints that already exist for brands or literally for anything, I kind of like know where it's come from, or can make connections about it. Whereas before, even though I was interested in it, I wouldn't, you know, look at a wallpaper and be like, it's just a flowery wallpaper. But now you're like, oh, that's come from this trend. Like, I get it now. That makes sense.
In like more in depth, like you understand everything.
Yeah. So I think that side of it was really important to me, because I didn't know as much as I know now.
I was going to ask you what you were like before uni versus now, but you've kind of already answered that one with saying that you didn't want to go to uni at first.
Yeah.
Let's go to Sienna's questions with. I'm going to pick the best ones here. I'm going to make it. What have you created? Like, what's your favourite thing that you created through your 3 years at uni?
Okay, I guess I have two things, but so the first one, I think it was a brief for the start of third year, and it was 100 print brief. I know it sounds like really scary. But I think that season was SS20, and I was really struggling because at this point I hadn't figured out like a style or anything, even though I was in third year. But like, some people don't, and that's okay. And I was trying like to do so many different things, and I started like painting a bit more, because I hadn't done it in a couple of years. I probably hadn't done it since like college, maybe, which was a while ago. And I made this collection. It was called Bioluminescence, but it was based on creepy crawlies that like glow in the dark.
All right.
So that was probably like my favourite print collection I've done out of my like whole time at uni. And then my FMP was my own brand, like a streetwear brand called Pio. And basically everything I made for that, like, I made sure it was something I was like really passionate about, and made sure every trend that I was picking made sense to me and made sense to the brand. Because I think it's quite easy to get lost in the fact that even though you're looking at trend reports all the time and they are like in and appropriate, they also need to be appropriate to what it's being made for, like what its purpose is and how they connect. Because I think at the beginning I'd seen all these mood boards, I'd made all these trends that I wanted to do, and then a couple of weeks in I was like, I would never want this on a streetwear brand, like I would never use it. So I literally scrapped it and started something different. But like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and it's better to get rid of it, try to force it to work, because it won't. And I think people will pick up on it if they're the same sort of level as you in terms of knowledge and like that side of the industry, because it will show. So,
how would you say overall like it's helped you with your skills? Because you said how you started to paint again and you didn't have a particular style, so in general, did it just help with everything?
I guess like, because it pushes you eventually to try things that you think wouldn't work before, and they wasn't going to work now. But when I started painting, like, it did take a lot of time, don't get me wrong, because painting's quite tedious, especially if it's smaller like motifs for print design. But anything that's sort of handcrafted is like a big thing in industry. Like, it's always, I suppose, not even a trend, it's like a craft that always comes back around, and it's more appreciated because someone's, done it by hand, put it together by hand. And I think as well with fashion illustration, because I really don't like doing it, it's not my favorite thing to be like doing, but I think getting a graphics tablet for third year, because I only ended up getting one right till the end, sort of helped more with drawing skills, even if you're using a template. But it does help when you're if you put a print on a couple of garments, putting the garments together as an outfit, because they would do that in industry. Like, you'd have your technical flats and drawings, as well as like your details and everything else you've done for the prints. But you would want to see it together, because it's how you would pitch it to a brand or an employer, because you want to show that you know how it works together. It's not just there's this print and this print and this print. So I think pushing the boat out a little bit and trying stuff you didn't think you'd ever do, because you can't rule out anything just because it's digital. Because you can literally scan it in and edit it that way. Like, you can create so many textures by hand, as opposed to just using a tablet or Photoshop brushes or something like that. So I wouldn't say, you know, don't try anything because you don't think it's going to work digitally, because you don't know.
That's
that's true.
Yeah, I'm like, you know. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. Have you managed to make good connections during your time on the course? Would you say you were prepared? You're prepared to leave uni?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I think everyone feels a bit scared after finishing. It's like settled in that you're like on your own now. But I think we had a LinkedIn, and we'd have to make the obvious connections with people we knew, like in the course or whatever. But it is a good place, even to just, if you make a post about something you've made and just write a little bit about it, like the right hashtags could really go a long way. And it's the same with Instagram. Like, it really just is about how you promote something and what audience you're trying to reach out to. So I follow like a couple of designers that I really love, and not everyone has to be like big brand verified, because sometimes they post opportunities like they want someone to make a logo or something like little like that, but it could carry itself a long way. So I would message people sometimes when they would post these opportunities, and then we'd kind of arrange something like in the future. But the worst thing that could happen, even if you just message someone off your own accord, is that they don't reply. You can literally just drop your website, you know, your portfolio, if you've got a different page for your Instagram. So for me, my graphics and like my personal sort of stuff is all mixed in together. And I think that works for me, because it's like my prints are very personality based, and it looks right together for me. So if you did have a different page or whatever, you can literally put the little tag and that's it, and they can click on it, and if they don't, they don't. But you can do that with so many people. Like, not every single person is just gonna ignore you. Like, it will do the work itself, especially if you just put your own links anywhere. So if it's on, I don't know, Twitter, or as well as Instagram, and like your bios or whatever, and your website having the small icons that just take it to whatever page you need it to go to. And it's the same with LinkedIn, because there's so many platforms where there is some kind of space for you to put something that's yours, and it literally takes 2 seconds to click on it. Like, so many people could click on it and contact you from that.
True. I suppose this is our last question. So how has the year been with this change, obviously, of having to work from home over the last few months?
I think it was quite difficult, like, initially, because you do have obviously all this time. Like, if you did have a job, you probably don't, like, anymore, or, you know, if you're not in sort of food, or if they'd furloughed you. So you don't really have like the same routine as you did prior, where you would, I don't know, go to work first, come home, do uni work, or the other way around. But it is important to form some kind of routine, even if you're not getting up at like 9 o'clock in the morning, because I wasn't doing that. I definitely wasn't. But just so that you've got set time in the day where you're doing stuff and you're following a time plan. So for the FMP, you have to submit a time plan anyway, and that might change and you might not stick to it, and that's fine, like, it happens. but I found it really helpful to on PowerPoint, just because it's like a screen, you can see like everything all together, or even if it's on InDesign where you're just putting like Monday, like week, whatever with the date, typing out what you want to do, and then adding like a little tick box or something, because it's like something to look forward to ticking off. Like it could be super minor, and it might just be like, make sure you post something on Instagram today, but as soon as you've done it, you've ticked one thing off, and then you kind of want to move on to the other things and tick other stuff off. And if you don't do one thing one day, it just moves on to the next, and it's fine to do that. Like, you just set your own reasonable deadlines, obviously, but it is in your control, and it's okay to not, you know, stick to everything that you thought you would be in the time plan, because I definitely didn't.
Yeah.
I don't think you're alone in that. I think probably most people
No, you want to, but it doesn't happen.
Cool. I think that's it then. I don't know, like, if they want us to do a little outro or something, like, because, like I say, with media,
do you want to do the outro?
What is it? What did you say?
Well, I didn't say anything the last one. I panicked and I just waved, and then I said the goodbye after I pressed stop recording. I suppose
this morning she's like, I was sweating because it was saying.
Yeah, I'm like.
Okay. Right. I think that's it for question wise. What was I going to say? I think also, like, one of the things I was going to say was that like with COVID, obviously, I'm guessing you've had kind of a bit of a creator's block as well.
A bit, yeah.
Have you been dealing with that?
I think because, like, having finished especially, I think just like being honest about it, when you've been doing any sort of graphics or anything creative, like, for a long time. So for me, it started in like year 9, and doing it for so many years, it can take the enjoyment out of it a bit, and it can become doing work for hand in, like, that is just the reality of it. And it's unfortunate because sometimes I think lessons and courses can get a bit ruined, like your personal enjoyment with them can get ruined because of that. But sort of having the break and like finished, it's difficult to get back into wanting to do something out of like a hobby, because I think sometimes you do have to separate like what is a hobby and what is work, like what has a purpose to be handed in, or if you were working for a company. So if I was right now, like, maybe not everything I was making for them would be something I would enjoy doing. But I suppose it's the craft that goes into it is what the enjoyment is, even if it's not like your personal taste by any means, or your aesthetic. But I suppose you're still following the same principles of like the research and like putting mood boards together, which like I find fun.
I love
so I love doing mood boards. So I've kind of had like a break now, but I think one thing that sort of gets me a little bit more keen to do stuff is Pinterest, because I see something on there and I'm like, well, I kind of want to do that now. Or I start to see, you know, brands coming out with new season stuff and like teasers, and following other designers I think really helps, because they might not be posting all the time, but when they are posting, like, it must be something you enjoy to follow, and it gets you wanting to do the same thing. Like, I actually find more enjoyment now posting pictures from like work than it is of myself. I don't really care about it that much anymore. I think because it's the engagement. Like, people are going to be more prone to liking photos of anything to do with you personally than work, which can be annoying. But when you actually do get a good engagement from like your audience with your work, I think it's like a better feeling. Like when people repost, I don't know, on their stories, or even just like a share, does mean a lot to that person. So I think making sure you're following the right people, even if you're doing something as simple as making mood boards, means you've got stuff to work with when you're able to work with it. So you don't have to do it right now, but when you might wake up one day and you're like, yeah, I'm going to make a print today, but you've got something to work with already, like, waiting for you, instead of the hassle of like, oh, I've got to find 10 images for a mood board now, and it's all got to make sense. It's already done, just with like a few saves.
Cool. All right, I think that's all the questions we've got. Basically, the message of the thing is just join fashion graphics or you'll regret it.